Traditional WAN versus SD-WAN. In this video, we will understand the concept of traditional WAN, which is related to MPLS and point-to-point links, while SD-WAN, which runs over internet, and what are the nitty-gritties that make it equivalent to that of services which MPLS is providing. Not only there, but also the feature set which are in addition to what the traditional WAN can provide. So we will go into details of the comparison of traditional WAN as compared to SD-WAN in the subsequent slides. First is the bandwidth crunch. Well, in that case, let us take example of traditional WAN where a remote site has got two links. So one will be the primary and other would be the secondary one. Let's say the primary and secondary, or in that case, the primary gets choked, and we need to further either increase the bandwidth or incorporate WAN optimization in that case. If we put in WAN optimization, that means additional charges are incurred, or else we increase the WAN bandwidth also, which will also incur additional bandwidth. However, on the same case, let us compare it with the SD-WAN. What will happen? That SD-WAN is tailor-made so that it will provide WAN optimization as part of its fundamental nature, and additionally, not only it will be utilizing the primary link but the secondary link also. Let us say the threshold for the primary link is reached, or rather breached the threshold value, then in that case either load balancing or traffic sharing would be happening in case of SD-WAN, which generally we don't see in case of the traditional WAN. Second one is the provisioning time. So earlier the remote sites for provisioning the traditional WAN, let us say MPLS network, which is in the center marked here, when we have to take a line from the MPLS network or a link, it used to take a very long time. And once the MPLS was provisioned, after that, the skilled person had to come in and perform the CLI based configuration on this. The problem was the MPLS had to be of the same service provider in the traditional WAN. However, with the SD-WAN, we can have internet from any of the ISPs available. So let us say Verizon for location 1, AT&T for location 2, maybe Airtel for location 3. That is possible. And that means very low time for device configuration also, because all these remote sites would be configured through the orchestrator in a click of a button. So this drastically brings down the time for configuring the SD-WAN devices as compared to traditional WAN, which used to take a lot of time because the user had to log into each and every device in the site, or that is all the remote sites, and do that configuration. Next is the configuration part of it. So as we discussed earlier also, the remote sites had the CPEs which were connected to the MPLS provider. In that case, what used to happen, the skilled person, rather the person had to be quite skilled in order to perform that configuration on this device. Log into that device, either travel to that location, and through CLA, that complex configuration had to be done. And once this remote site was configured, the person had to manually go to the other side, log into the device, and do that again CLI configuration. So that was the case of traditional WAN. However, now with SD-WAN, all these remote sites which are at remote locations and connected via internet, they can be configured remotely by a concept called zero touch provisioning, and by also click of a button where templates are uploaded onto those devices in one go, which makes it quite simpler, easier, and no high skill level resources are required to perform that change. Moving on, the cost impact in terms of OpEx and CapEx. So MPLS provider had to be the same for connecting all the remote sites or the point-to-point links. However, in case of SD-WAN, the internet could be from any of the ISPs. So let us say remote site 1 could have the internet from one ISP, remote site 2 from the second and third and so on. And this means that the businesses could negotiate with respective ISP providers in order to bring the cost down. Whichever the ISP provider in that location was giving cheaper, economical, and good quality of connectivity, that type of ISP internet connection could be taken in that case. That means the benefit via the SD-WAN is that the cost of the capex that we are taking also reduces, and the operational expenditure also drastically comes down. Moving on, operational overhead and config errors. So each of the device earlier in the traditional one had to be configured individually. And the problem was if the same person was configuring it, that made sense that the chances of errors were less. However, if there were multiple people who were configuring different locations, that means the chances of errors and manual configuration would be too high. However, with SD-WAN, since we have the template-based configuration which is pushed by the orchestrator to all the remote sites, that brought down the chances of getting the error. Not only that, through automation, the configuration could be pushed directly remotely from those locations. Performance of applications in cloud. So let us say this is one remote site which is connected through MPLS to the hub location or maybe the data center. Now, these data centers are further connected to the cloud provider or the cloud where the SaaS and other applications are. So that means for the remote site, in order to access the cloud-based applications or SaaS applications, they had to first go to the hub or data center, and from that data center, they had to further go to the cloud. That means a suboptimal path is also there, and any delay, let us say from hub or data center to the cloud, if there is a delay which is there, it will further impact the remote site user experience also. Hence, the traditional WAN was more of a tromboning, a throttling experience, and hence the user experience was not that great. However, with the SD-WAN, the remote site user could directly go onto the cloud side of. That means the throughput, the delay, the jitter, everything has drastically reduced. The performance and the experience of the users for the cloud applications would also multifold and become better as compared to traditional WAN. Application level visibility. Well, for the remote sites which are configured, the visibility of what is going out, what is coming in, all that detailed information would not be available for the management or the businesses in order to do proactive or reactive monitoring of it. Now, in order to achieve that outcome, a new solution had to be brought in picture, which is more of a monitoring or visibility level solution. So that means additional cost, that is, cost would incur in that case. However, looking at SD-WAN, all those remote location, everything has got the SD-WAN VHs or maybe SD-WAN devices which provide application level intelligence. So visibility about the application, the deep level of detail of communication can be easily generated and diagnosed by the SD-WAN. And another thing is the alignment of the application is as per what the businesses are looking for, which is most important. And businesses are pretty highly benefited via the SD-WAN, this type of intelligence which is made available. Consistent policy. So earlier, the QoS and security policies were implemented on different locations. So they may have been inconsistent because there would be different locations and different resources who would be configuring them. However, with SD-WAN, the security policies are consistent because it is the orchestrator which is able to provide or push that template based configuration all across the location, and hence that means your quality of service and consistency of security policies is uniformly applied everywhere. Next is IT infrastructure services. So There would be multiple single functional devices also, and complexity of the branch IT management would be increased because each branch will have multiple number of devices to be managed. However, SD-WAN, what it does is it will centralize the management to a single pane of glass through the orchestrator, which will be responsible for controlling, for orchestrating all those devices. Well, all those differences and comparison that we were discussing in the last slide has been encapsulated, and rather overall information has been shared in this table. And this takes us to the end of the presentation. Hope you like it, and please don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you.